In January 2026, Denmark quietly flew soldiers into Greenland, but they did not just bring weapons. They brought blood from Danish hospitals and explosives to blow up their own runways, to stop American planes from landing. This was not a training exercise. This was Denmark, a NATO ally, preparing a secret military plan to stop the United States of America from invading its own territory. And it nearly happened. It started with Trump. Since winning the 2024 election, he had demanded the U.S. take control of Greenland, calling it a national security necessity. He refused to rule out military force. Then in January 2026, the U.S. attacked Venezuela and captured its president in a single overnight operation. A senior Danish official told their public broadcaster DR, "When Trump keeps saying he wants to take over Greenland, and then what happened in Venezuela happened, we had to take all scenarios seriously." Denmark listed the United States as a potential national security threat for the first time in history. Operation Arctic Endurance was announced as a NATO training exercise. It was not. Danish soldiers from the elite Jaeger Corps arrived in Nuuk and Kangerlussuaq with live ammunition, demolition explosives, and blood bank supplies, flown in from Copenhagen hospitals. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. If American C-17 transport aircraft approached Nuuk or Kangerlussuaq without authorization, Danish demolition units would blow the runway surfaces, making them useless for heavy aircraft. American troops would have nowhere to land. France sent Alpine troops trained for mountain warfare. Germany and Sweden sent soldiers. A French naval vessel moved toward the North Atlantic. Denmark scrambled F-35 fighter jets. 5 European nations were quietly mobilizing against the possibility of an American military operation. When asked if European soldiers would have fought American troops, one senior German official said it was a question they were very glad they didn't have to answer. A NATO alliance that had existed for 77 years was closer to breaking than at any point since its founding. Here's what made this crisis different from every previous Trump provocation. He had already done the unthinkable once. On January 3, 2026, U.S. Special Forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro in Caracas, without congressional approval, without warning. If he did it there, Denmark believed he could do it anywhere. Denmark's Danish Defense Intelligence Service had never listed an ally as a threat. The document dated January 13, 2026, changed that. For the first time in 77 years, the United States appeared on a Danish national security threat list. Greenland itself has around 56,000 people. It is the largest island on Earth, almost entirely covered in ice. Its strategic position gives whoever controls it dominance over the Arctic, the North Atlantic shipping lanes, and early warning radar lines between Europe and America. Russia and China are both expanding Arctic operations. Russia has reopened Soviet-era Arctic military bases. China has declared itself a near-Arctic state. Both are watching this crisis, and both understand that whoever ends up with Greenland controls the top of the world. On January 21st, Trump stood at the World Economic Forum in Davos and said the U.S. would not take Greenland by military force. The Danish soldiers stood down. The explosives were not detonated. The runways survived, but the operation order dated January 13th still existed. But here's what nobody is asking. If Trump changes his mind, if the political winds shift, Denmark's secret plan is now public. The element of surprise is gone, and Denmark knows it, which means the next plan has to be something else entirely. This story is about more than Greenland. It is about what happens when the country that built the rules of the international order decides the rules no longer apply to it. Every American ally is now asking the same quiet question. Are we next? NATO was built on one principle. An attack on one member is an attack on all. Article 5. What January 2026 revealed is that nobody had thought to ask what happens when the attacker is a member. Denmark has announced $14.6 billion in new defense spending since this crisis began. Other European nations are rearming at the fastest rate since the Cold War. The cost of what almost happened in January is being paid right now, in money, in broken trust, and in a Europe that is learning it may need to defend itself from its oldest ally. Greenland's 56,000 people were never consulted. Their Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen said this clearly: Greenland is not for sale. It never was. It will not be. But what January 2026 showed is that what Greenland wants may not be the deciding factor. The explosives were never detonated. The runways are still intact. The soldiers went home. But the operations order dated January 13, 2026 still exists in a Danish military archive. Proof that the world got closer to something truly unthinkable than almost anyone knew. And the reason we almost did not hear about it is that it almost worked.